Hey everyone, welcome back to Software Testing Mentor and RCV Academy. Today I'm here with Surya Narayanan, who is a fresher, has done a lot of courses on software testing, Java and Selenium as well. So he is seeking a job opportunity in testing and he's a fresher. So today's interview will be focused on manual testing basically at the fresher level. So welcome Surya Narayanan, how are you?
I am fine, sir. How you are, sir?
Good. Thank you, Surya Narayanan.
I am very happy to see you in this interview, sir.
Thanks, Surya Narayanan. Is it fine if I call you Surya?
You can call Surya only. No problem, sir.
Okay, great, Surya. All right. So, Surya, basically, can you tell me about your educational background and your professional journey, like your courses and things that you have learned till now?
In the college, I have done engineering I am from computer science background. I studied at SRM Valiam Engineering College. So I am a 2020 passed out batch. In schooling, I have done at Hilton Matriculation IIM Secondary School. And in 12th, I have done schooling at Sri Agobalamanam Oriental School at Chennai. So during the COVID time, I could not able to get a proper job. That's why I decided to do some courses in software testing, SQL as well as Java. And also I done data science course in Great Learnings. And also I have done an internship in ZenQ Technologies. I have done work in real-time projects. 2 months duration I have done at the online itself. And coming to my strengths, I am very positive attitude. Whenever any tough situation comes, I will take it as a positive. And through my goal, I can be able to achieve any kind of success. Coming to my hobbies are reading books as well as watching movies. And reading book is my hobby. Whenever I learn new things to gain some knowledge, that is very my passionate. So every day I learn day by day technologies, up to date technologies I know. So that I am very passionate about learning process. So that's why this is my hobby. And coming to my ambition is to become a software professional. So whenever everywhere without computer they could not live. So that's why in the IT industry it will run very fast. So that's why I decided to, because I am from computer science background, so I learned many technologies. So that's why I decided to do some courses and then I will take to choose as this professional as a software engineer.
Great. Okay. All right. So you mentioned about your reading, that you do a lot of reading. What's the last book that you have read, the recent one?
Last book I have read as Akbar Birbal, one book is there, sir. In that book, I have learned some incident stories. So it make me very enthusiastic as well as I can be able to improve myself while when we going for anywhere. So in the reading books, I have been very interested. So whenever free time also, I cannot waste any time. So in the time I will spend many books to learn. So then I will be gain some knowledge and then I write some notes, what I learned from the story. Then I will write the points and then I will be memorize or I will be observed and then I will be able to give own story. So that's why I very interesting for me to reading books.
Great. All right. Okay, that's good to know a brief about yourself and your background. So let's quickly go to the basics of software testing. So what are some of the phases of software testing life cycle?
Software testing life cycle, it has many phases. So first requirement collection will be there and feasibility study and they will be doing designing and they will do coding and they will be in the life cycle. They are having the testing as well as installation as well as maintenance. So these are all the life cycles will be available in the software developer life cycle.
Right. So this is development life cycle. I want to know what are the phases in the testing life cycle, software testing life cycle. That's fine. Like your answer is correct for the software development life cycle, which is more of a waterfall approach. So requirement design, development, etc. In software testing, so there is a testing phase as well in the software development.
We have to write a test plan, test cases, test execution, and retrospect meeting, and design and develop prototype. So these 5 phases only, I think, come under the software test life cycle.
Right. So basically, yes, I mean, you are partially correct there. So you have, like test planning, then you
Yes, sir.
design the test case, then you have,
Yes, sir. Correct. Yes, sir.
execution of the test cases, right? After execution, you have the test cycle closure. So multiple phases. I'm not looking for exact phases, but yes, I mean, retrospective is something different, which is a meeting. But in
Yes, sir.
terms of the testing life cycle, you basically plan and then execute and then close the testing, right? Okay, good.
Yes, sir.
So now what do you understand by black box testing?
So it is a combination of verify the functionality. First, they will be check the functionality against the requirement specification. So what the requirement specification means, in the requirement specification against they will be do the testing is called as a black box testing. So in the black box testing, they will not do the in a correct way. They will do it in a random way.
So that's not accurately what black box testing will. So you mentioned that you will do the functional testing, which is fine. But then black box, when we say, it is basically when you are testing an application without knowledge of the internal working of the code, right? So say, for example, you
Yes.
have the application and you don't know what goes inside. So you clicked on the button, and after that button, you provided all the information in the registration form. Say, for example,
Yes,
clicked on the register, and then you verified that the registration happened successfully. So you do not
Yes,
know what happens inside, which are the methods, which are the classes that have been written, what's the call,
yes, sir.
what are the path and structure. So if that thing is black box for you, you don't know internal working of the code, then that is a black box testing. Let's take an example of a toaster, right? So I say,
Yes,
Surya,
sir.
go ahead and test the toaster without knowing, without opening it and without knowing. So what will you do? You will simply, first thing you will do is you will plug in the toaster into the power
Plug in
plug.
we cannot the plug whether it is working or not. We have
Yes,
to check,
that's
and we have to heat the bread in the
right,
toaster,
right.
and then we have to take a note when the time is over in the toaster.
That's correct. So basically, you don't know what circuit is inside, but then you are testing, you're plugging it in, then you are checking whether the bread is getting heated, it is getting heated at a proper level, at different level. So this is what the black box for you. Testing a toaster is a black box because you don't know, you are not opening it, you are not testing the actual circuit and design that is within there. So similar thing in the software context as well. Okay. So on the same note, what is white box testing?
In the white box testing, developers won't be involved in the white box testing and test each and every code of the line, and it can be in the source code line will be visible. In the developers only, they will be do the white box. Suppose if any code is, we have to, suppose if I write some code, the developers should check the code, whether it is correct or not. Suppose it is a bug, means the developer should be able to involve each and every line of code and check and rectify the problem, whether it happens compile time error, when it happens a runtime error or not. So in that case, they will be do the white box testing.
Yeah, basically looking at the actual flow of the code and then fixing that.
Coding
right?
language, they will check.
Yeah. So basically like opening the box and checking in which circuit, on which line the problem is, in which subroutine the problem is. Yes. So mostly, yes, it is done by developers, but then as part of bookish knowledge, many people say that it's done by testers as well, but I haven't done it in my career yet, the white box testing. I have only done white box testing for the automation code that I write. So I might have written the unit test for the code, which is also not very frequent, right? So that's good. Okay. Now, so basically you have mentioned that you have worked on internship as well, right? So during your internship, did you test any application?
No, sir. I have worked in the Java role, sir. So I have worked only the Java coding language only. In the time, I do not do the testing part, sir. Okay. But in testing part is there, sir. But they will give only Java for me, sir.
Right.
To code some language, sir. Okay. That's only I have worked as a Java, sir.
Right. Okay.
Only anyways. 2 months only worked.
Right. Okay. That's fine. So because you haven't worked on any sort of testing role, so I'll stick to basics. So you would have heard about the test case, right?
Yes, sir.
So what is a test case?
Test case is a document which we have to implement what we are doing in that module. Suppose if the login module, like Gmail means login, and next page send items like this. What we are doing in the module that will be implemented in the as a test case. What we are doing, and we have to write a test description and test case ID, and we have to write a status, whether it is a priority, whether it is a blocker means we have to write a blocker, severity, like this we have to write in a documentation format, and there are 3 types we have to write. First, header, body, footer. 3 types of test cases we have to write. Header means first part they will write 1 test cases, 1 scenarios. Second part, second test cases, second scenario. Third means third test cases, third scenario. And after that, who will create the test case, who will approve the test cases. Like this, the last will be, we have to mention in the, and also dates should be mentioned in the test cases. So these are the format we are using in the test cases.
Right. Okay. Partially you are correct there. You have confused a little bit defect and test case together. But it's okay. So
defect,
basically,
I do not tell the defect, sir.
So you mentioned
I tell
about
the procedure.
You mentioned about the priority, severity and priority. So priority is fine.
Sir.
Priority you specify, but severity, I think you mentioned about severity.
No, sir. I telling the specific module, sir. Suppose if I log in Monday, what kind of bug is there? Mean that should be mentioned in the test cases also, sir. Like a priority means if it is a low priority. Low priority is happened means we can write the lower priority. Suppose high priority. Like this we have to write, sir. That's only I tell the
yes, priorities is okay. But after execution, when you raise a defect, then for the defect you specify severity and priority separately. Okay. Now, the other thing is when you answer any of the question, so make sure that you articulate your answer in a way that it flows well. So basically, start with very simple statement, right? So something like if you say a test case is basically how you are going to test those steps that are required to test the application. When you document those steps, the how part is what the test case is, right? And then there is a scenario, which is basically what you are going to test. So what and how. So test scenario and test case you would have heard about, right? So test scenario is what you are going to test. And then test case is how you are going to test. So basically, what will be the steps you will be follow, what will be the expected outcome, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Great. All right. So the next thing I want to understand is what do you understand by defect? So first thing is what is a defect? And why do we need to? So let's start with what is a defect first.
Defect is a bug which, if any missing requirement is there, means according to the requirement specification, that may be considered as a defect. And also deviation from the requirement specification is called a defect. Suppose if the given requirement specification is there, means it's not there in the module, means that is also called as a defect. So we can consider as a bug only.
That's correct. Yes. So deviation from the requirement, or there is something missing, or implementation is wrong, right? So
yes, sir.
Human error. So anything which is not the desired outcome is raised as a defect or bug. Okay. Good.
Yes, sir.
All right. Now you have mentioned about in your resume, I don't see a lot of information about the testing that you have mentioned, right? So it's just sort of certifications that you have done.
Yes, sir.
Right. Okay. That's fine. You have mentioned about a little bit of Selenium. Do you want me to ask a little bit of Selenium as well? Or just stick to manual?
Selenium, not much, I don't know, sir.
Okay. Okay. That's fine. So let's
not aware of that. So after the course, if now only studying the studying, after that I can able to answer, sir.
Okay, that's fine. So can you tell me the difference between functional and non-functional testing?
Functional and non-functional testing. So test each and every component of the module is also called as a functional, as well as we can tell it as a component testing also. But in the non-functional, they do not have any certain documentation work. So in that case, they will be doing a non-functional testing. There are many types of functional testing are there, like a white box, black box, acceptance testing, integration testing. But here they only the certain type of testing are there in the non-functional testing. In the functional testing, we have to write a test case, a test scenario, test review, test plan, and documentation should be done in that functional testing. But in that non-functional testing, they do not do any documentation or in the test plan like test cases. They will not do in the non-functional testing.
So I think have you heard about load or performance testing?
Yes, sir. Load, applying the load, test each and every application by applying the load and stability time and response time. We will measuring in that time is called as a performance testing. So in the performance testing, there will be one model is two model or how the performance will happen in the one model, two model. So in that case, in the performance testing will be happening.
Right. But when we say performance, load and stress, these sort of testing, what sort of testing they are? They are functional or non-functional testing?
They are non-functional testing.
Right. And what things non-functional testing basically verify? Say, for example, you are accessing a website. When I say, go ahead, Surya, I want you to do some non-functional testing on a website. What attributes basically you will be looking for? So the response time, is that non-functional aspect of the requirement? Like when I open a website in a browser.
Applying the load and it will be more than the number of users.
Correct. So number of users, response time when there is a load, when there are so many users. So that's what non-functional testing is. It is still documented. It's not like it is not documented. They do prepare the plan. So even non-functional testing, they do prepare a plan and they document it, they write the script, and that's how they do it. Okay. Now, in the defect life cycle, there is a state deferred. What do you understand by that deferred state? When do we move a defect to a deferred state?
Whenever there is a bug in some requirement. Suppose if the bug is missing in one requirement means they will be considered as a defect.
Yeah, but there is a state which is deferred, DEFERRED, deferred. So for example, when you open a defect, it's in new state, right? Then it's assigned to developer. Then somebody
reopen,
rejected and deferred, right? So there are different status. So when do you move a defect to a deferred state? What exactly it means?
Whenever there is a bug in that requirement, so
that's fine.
There is no proper documentation or proper test cases or not module or not working properly, in that case they will be do the deferred state.
Right, that's not correct basically. So when a defect is raised, say for example it's a valid defect, okay, and the development team, basically the product owner, they decide that we do not need to fix it, it is not very critical, we do not need to fix it right away, let's defer it to the next release, let's move it backward, so let's postpone the fix. So that's when they move, it's still a valid defect, but then they move it for the next release, or let's fix it after 2 weeks or 3 weeks, depending whenever the team will have time, because there are more high priority things to do. So that's when they move the defect to deferred state. Okay. All right. And then when do you reopen a defect? So there is a reopen state as well.
Suppose developer test engineer finds a defect in the defect report. So suppose if it is any bug in that module means, once again they will be open the defect report and check whether it is correct or not. In that case, they will be do the reopen status, assign to the reopen status to developer. Right.
So they will retest, and if it still doesn't work, then they'll reopen the defect. Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Right.
Sir.
Yes. So basically, if a defect has been raised, developers work on it, they say it has been fixed, they assign it back to the tester. Tester again tests it, re-executes the test, and if the defect is still there, then they reopen it, right? Reopen, and then it again goes to the developer queue. Okay. All right. So I think that's all for today, Surya. Anything you want to ask before I get into the feedback?
No feedback. So how is my interview?
Yeah. So
how is my speech?
Yes, I'll come to that. Okay. So let's start with this resume. So basically, resume, you have to work on it, Surya. It is good that you have kept it on one page, all the key information, but then include your projects more, and then include your learning. So basically your software testing and Java and details that you have learned, maybe write the pointers about that. Do a little bit of detailed.
Yes, sir. I have now I have modified resume I have inside.
Okay, great.
So what a skill I have in that, if I take it, for example, I will take it as Java means,
Mhm.
the Java, I will mention the what are the knowledge I know that I
Yes.
will mention.
Yes.
Okay, I having now new resume also, sir.
Yes. And make sure whatever you mention in the resume, okay, whatever information and knowledge that you have, you need to have the knowledge of it, because interviewer will ask whatever you'll put in the resume. So from those keywords, if you'll say I know Java and I know these things in Java, they'll ask questions from those that. Okay, if you
Yes,
mention
sir.
inheritance, if you mention polymorphism and things like that, they'll ask questions around that. Okay, so make sure when you
Yes, sir.
put those keywords, you actually learn about those. Okay, first thing.
Yes, sir.
Second thing is work on your articulation, like work on how you are going to answer. Maybe practice few questions, read the details, and then stand in front of the mirror and maybe practice how you are going to answer the question. Okay, write the answer and then think about it quietly and then try to practice, because when you answer, it is more of a haphazard sort of answer which is not tied up to a real sort of conversation. Okay, so try that. Third thing is you need to work on your software testing skills. You need to brush up your software testing concepts and make sure that you actually go ahead and watch, maybe just go and watch my videos itself that are like 40-50 videos of basics of software testing. That will give you, or basically you'll be able to brush up and get the practical incidences and approaches how you are going to answer certain questions. Okay, so you have some good understanding about some of the concepts, but then you have to keep learning more. Okay.
Okay, sir.
All right. So I think that's for today, and maybe you brush up your fundamentals again, and then get back to us, and we'll conduct another sort of mock interview for you. Okay, and it will be a
Okay, sir.
big sort of difference you will see. All right. So, but
Okay,
otherwise, it
sir.
was all good. Nothing to worry about. Okay. So it's all good. It's part and parcel of the overall learning journey. Okay. Just see where you are
Okay,
lacking and work on it. Okay.
okay, sir.
All right, Surya. So thank you very much for joining the call, Surya. It was pleasure talking to you.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
This really helped me to improve my communication, sir.
Sure. Thank you very much. Thanks, Surya. Have
Thank
a
you,
nice
sir.
day.